So when building muscle, genetics play a massive role. And the truth is, a lot of you aren't training optimally for your genetics. And you guys seem to love when we talk about genetics, because the first time we released the genetics calculator, you guys crashed our email list. We got thousands of submissions. So now we're gonna break down exactly what you should be doing based on your genetic code. So the truth is, majority of influencers don't want to talk about genetics when it comes to building muscle, because they either virtue signal that they got there because of the hard work that they put in, and they want to convince you that you can just do the same when you weren't born with the top 1% genetics like they were, and neither were we. We found it extremely hard at the beginning of our gym journey to put on muscle, get size. We looked emaciated to the point where it was just a joke. People will constantly mention how skinny we looked, and it took us years to do the research, do a deep dive on what we specifically needed to do to finally build our dream physique. So we split it up into 4 main categories that you most likely fall under: skinny, skinny fat, overweight, or you just have a bad frame. A bad frame can consist of many things, but we're just gonna put it all into one category. We understand this is kind of overgeneralizing the whole topic, but let's just say this consists of things like a narrow clavicle bone, or a wide waist, or thin arms genetically. Moral of the story is, this is to do with your bones, and all of this is to do with your, let's say, metabolism. So we're not gonna waste any of your time. We're gonna go into the mistakes and then the solution to each of the problems that you will have. So with skinny guys, the main mistakes you'll make is number one, and pretty much the main mistake, is you're not in a calorie surplus. You're not eating above your calorie maintenance. That is, in essence, the main problem with skinny guys. This is just thermodynamics. It really is. And even if you think you're eating a lot, if you think, oh, I just can't eat enough food, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to other people. You're just not eating enough food, bro. Yeah, no matter how much you're eating, you're not in a surplus if you're not gaining weight. It's as simple as that. Like, no matter what mental games or mental gymnastics you're playing with yourself, you're not in a surplus. One of the reasons for this is you're not eating enough meals. So a lot of people try to, well, when they think of bulking, they think of big meals, massive fucking meals, and they're just shoveling themselves, making themselves sick. That makes it a lot harder. It's a lot easier to just eat more meals. Like, you cannot get away with 3 square meals. I don't think I've eaten 3 square meals since I started the gym, even on a cut. 3 meals is not enough, and I honestly don't know how people only eat 3 meals. 5 meals, 6 meals, 7 meals. It's not a ridiculous amount. You're also doing too much cardio. Pretty much, if you're really skinny, if you're emaciated, any cardio is too much. I'm just gonna say it, okay? If you're skinny, the main goal is you need to get out of that as quick as possible, and I see too many skinny guys on the treadmill. Next is the chicken, broccoli, and rice. This isn't gonna work for you. They're high satiety foods, and you're not gonna eat enough to really get into a surplus. These are great foods, but when you're trying to bulk when you're skinny, I would avoid it. There are other foods you can eat, which we'll get into. You're also clearly not tracking your food, because if you were, you would be realizing that you're not in a surplus. And you're also focusing too much on the protein. When you're bulking, protein will come with the foods that you eat. A lot of people obsess over the protein number. If you're bulking, it's not as important to eat an absurdly amount of high protein foods. It is important just to be in a surplus, and you're gonna do that by upping the carbs and by upping the fats, which we'll go into. So the fix for these problems is to eat calorie-dense foods. This is the name of the game, especially when you're skinny and you have a super high metabolism. You need to figure out which foods contain which calories and which foods you can eat a lot of and not feel full. A simple switch that everyone should do right now is swap your chicken out for full-fat beef. This is what got me out of being skinny straight away, and it's actually what made me take the bulk too far, by eating a fuck ton of beef. Fat has 9 calories per gram, protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram. Now, some people say high fats is not a good idea, you should be high carbs. Either one works. I find personally, going high fat is the easiest way to just get mass calories. Next is you want to actually implement progressive overload, and especially if you're eating enough, and especially if you're in a surplus, there is no reason you can't be upping the weight every single week. And it's very easy to get in a rhythm of lifting the same weights every week on the cables, and you might not even be looking at the weight that you're lifting. But the truth of the matter is, if you're not upping your weight, there's a good chance that you're not getting bigger and you're not making progress. It's as simple as it is. Especially at the start when you're bulking, you should be going up in weight every month. Yeah, especially if you're just starting out skinny and you're in a big calorie surplus, your numbers should be going up absurdly quick. Like we mentioned before, going high carb also is gonna be a really good idea. High carbs and high fats, don't stress over the protein. You're gonna hit that automatically just by eating normal whole foods while bulking. Extend your eating window. This is probably the next big game changer next to the calorie dense foods. Most people only eat within a small window throughout the day. You should eat at the very start of your day all the way up to the very end of your day. For example, for me, when I was really bulking up from being skinny, I was eating at 6 a.m. and I was eating like every 2 hours all the way up until 10, 11 p.m. to the point where I'm going to bed. I have like a 16, 17 hour eating window. And if you're eating every 2 hours, you can fit in 8 meals. A lot of people will go against this advice, and a lot of people don't make progress in the gym. And if you're very serious about getting actual results and making gains quick, especially as a natural, you need to put in the hard work. And that hard work includes eating like a fucking animal. Liquid calories is massive. I mean, This is huge. You can have 1,000 calories in a drink, and just implementing this on top of what you already eat will put you into a big surplus. It's as simple as that. It is the least satiating form of calories. Also, lowering your suppressants will be a little hack on top of things. So lower caffeine. If you're a nicotine addict, try to reduce that because that will suppress your appetite. The one last thing I'll add to the skinny category is just to not bulk too far, which I know you're probably not even thinking about right now. But a lot of skinny guys completely overcompensate and then they end up just a bloated mess, which is what I was. A lot of people, it's kind of like what Dylan McKnight did. All right, next is skinny fat. So what is skinny fat? Well, it's what I was when I started gym. Essentially, it is just being high body fat and very low muscle mass, all right? It's not some special condition. It's just as simple as you have the muscle mass of a skinny guy and the body fat of almost an overweight person. The main causes and the main mistakes for skinny fat guys is eating way too much processed food. So you're not eating enough calories, and the calories you do eat are coming from bad sources with next to no nutrition and a bunch of added bullshit. Yeah, a lot of people don't talk about this. If you're just naturally high testosterone, you're most likely not gonna be skinny fat. You're gonna have good body composition. That's one of the side effects of high testosterone. You're most likely in a very bad hormonal state, which I probably was when I was skinny fat. I was sitting inside playing Minecraft during COVID and just eating bullshit foods. And I'll throw up a photo as well of what I looked like. I was just very inflamed and holding a lot of water retention, which doesn't help. The last one is just having a bad bulking strategy. And this was us at the start. It was essentially what every influencer tried to tell us. It's just slam as many calories as you can. Who cares about where it's coming from? Calories are calories. Yet they can say this when they're injecting anabolic steroids or taking sums, which they're not talking about in the side. And that's why when guys follow this advice, they end up with just this mediocre, sloppy physique that looks rushed, it looks like shit. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. They can get away with it because the calories they eat are getting partitioned into muscle because they're on steroids. Okay, so what are the fixes for this? The first one is strict tracking. If you're skinny fat, this is when you need to be the most dialed into your nutrition tracking. So on things like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer. And the reason for this is you need to be in a small surplus to the point where you're almost getting a recomp, which means you're losing body fat and gaining muscle, which is very possible when you first start lifting, even naturally. It does get a little bit harder to do this later in your training, but later in your training, you're not skinny fat, let's be real. Also, keeping a hypertrophy focus in your training. So this means lots of isolation exercises, avoiding powerlifting and compound movements, because to be real, that doesn't build muscle as quick as hypertrophy training. You won't get as strong on compound lifts, but that's not your issue. Your issue is being skinny fat. So we need to build muscle as quick as we can, and hypertrophy bodybuilder style training is what does that. Next would be lowering your carbs to a moderate level. Don't overindulge in carbs. That's when you're gonna start to see bad effects like water retention, inflammation, and especially if you're getting them from bad carb sources like fast food and other things of that nature, that's when you're gonna really start to look like shit and hate yourself in the mirror. The last ones are lower your stress and sleep more. Putting your body under chronic stress is one of the worst things you can do for your body. Yeah, when you lower your cortisol levels, this frees up more cholesterol to build testosterone. And a lot of being skinny fat, like I mentioned before, is just a bad hormonal environment. So you most likely have low testosterone, which is allowing your body to hold on to a lot more fat and a lot less muscle mass. All right, next we have the overweight category. And simply this means you're over 16 to 17% body fat. This seems super strict, but it's really not. The standards are just really low. Like you still have to go a long way from 16 to 17% body fat to get shredded. So that's why I would say that's overweight. Yeah, this is pretty much everyone these days. Like 90% of people walking on the streets, in my eyes, fit into this category. So what are the mistakes you're making when you're trying to get a good physique and you're overweight? The first one is stupid, non-sustainable diets. So most people, when they're overweight, they want a quick fix, all right? This is a mental thing. They're in pain and they want to get out of there ASAP. So they rush diets and they go into extreme deficits straight away, or they do some influencer diet. And the problem with this is they haven't built the discipline yet. So people that are in the gym have built a foundation of discipline. They can attempt extreme diets. They can go on big mini cuts. I can do any diet right now. I could eat nothing. I can fast for days because I've built that discipline. Overweight people don't have that. It's as simple as that. You will not stick to a ridiculous diet. Next is focusing on cardio too much when it's way easier to just eat less food. It really is that simple. You burn way less calories than you think you do on a jog or a run, and you're gonna have to be running for hours to really burn off the excess amount of calories. Cardio is great. Cardio is essential when you're on a cut, but it's not gonna do as much as you think it is when you're overweight. The next one is having cheat meals. So overweight people see bodybuilders having cheat meals. They see people that have been doing the gym for years having cheat meals. You can't afford it. You don't have the calorie window to afford cheat meals. The fact of the matter is, you've been in a surplus for a very long time. And it's these cheeky little cheat meals that you think you can get away with that are just throwing your average calorie intake way out of the water and are putting you into a maintenance or even worse, a surplus. The truth is, you could be in a deficit the whole week and then one massive McDonald's meal will throw you right out and you'll be in a surplus. They squeeze easily 1,500, 1,600, 2,000 calories in some of these fast food meals. The last mistake is calorie-dense food. So this is the opposite of the skinny guys' problems. They're just indulging a bunch of calorie-dense foods. And this is the biggest habit that I notice in overweight people. Like, I'm so used to being very selective about the foods I eat and avoiding certain foods that I forget that people are just indulging massively in super calorie-dense foods. Okay, so what is the fix for these mistakes? The first big bold one, and really the only thing you need to do, is get into a calorie deficit. All right, it's very obvious and pretty much everyone knows this, but if they knew all the information to get themselves into that deficit, we wouldn't have an obesity crisis. Probably the biggest and quickest fix you can do is to eat high satiety foods. So vegetables, fruits, lean meats like high protein meats like chicken and fish. Next, we have to shorten your eating window, because the truth of the matter is, if you've only got 8 hours to eat in the day, it's really unlikely that you're gonna eat yourself into a calorie surplus. And this is where I'll see a lot of people get results. It's just fasting in the morning. For me personally, and probably for you, once you eat one meal, you wanna eat another meal. The cravings kick in. Yeah, realistically, once you're used to doing these morning fasts, you won't be hungry until 1, 2 p.m. and eating in the morning becomes kind of a weird feeling. And the last easy fix to do is to just increase your protein intake. And especially when you're cutting, it's very important to eat a high protein diet so that you don't lose muscle mass when you're cutting the weight. And also, it's two birds with one stone, because protein is the most satiating macronutrient. Realistically, if you're eating chicken, if you're eating fish, if you're eating lean cuts of beef, that will fill you up very quick, and it's also gonna increase the protein in your diet. And finally, what you probably came to the video for, we have a bad frame, which includes all the things I was talking about before. So the main mistakes is not prioritizing the AAA muscles, which is all of the aesthetic muscles that the AAA physique has. We talk about this physique in every video: aesthetic, attractive, and athletic. It's not taking steroids. This is true, man, and this is really the reality. Like, if you've got like a bad frame, there's no amount of coping you can do to remove the fact that guys build good physiques from bad genetics when they take steroids. You know, people aren't gonna tell you that, man, but all these influencers you see online that have these ridiculous transformations, they're taking steroids. Everything you do apart from injecting steroids to try and fix a bad frame is gonna give you negligible results. The only things that can really fix a bad frame isn't things like injecting HGH, which can actually grow your bones if your growth plates aren't already closed, or it's testosterone. Yeah, we're not here to convince you either way to take steroids or not. You're probably better off just not. And next will just be training like a powerlifter. Once again, it's really simple. You're just not doing hypertrophy movements. Therefore, you're really not growing how you want to grow. So the solution to your bad frame, the first one is AAS, which is anabolic androgenic steroids. Like we're talking about, you know, we're not promoting steroids. We haven't done steroids, but like, this is just the reality, and we're not here to convince you either way. We're here to provide you the facts. We're here to provide you the reality, the truth of the matter. That's what we're always prioritizing here. Next is upper body focus, okay? You wanna prioritize your upper body. The truth is, building a really aesthetic physique, it's gonna come down to your shoulders, your lats, your chest. It's really building that V-taper. Like, a lot of people are just wasting their time in the gym and they're not getting the results they want because they're doing things that just aren't really gonna give them a good ROI. Like, these are all good exercises, but things like deadlifts, what's the ROI on that really? With the time it takes you to set that up, you could be doing way better things. Yeah, realistically, we're optimizing for aesthetics here. We're not optimizing to do massive numbers in a powerlifting competition. And we're not optimizing to get dressed up in a sparkly G-banger on stage and oil up for a bunch of other men to judge you. Another solution is to just get lean. A lot of problems and a lot of flaws in your physique get removed when you actually get really lean. I'm talking like 10%, 9%, 8% body fat, where you have like chiseled, dug out abs in natural lighting. And the last one would be isolation movements. So once again, hypertrophy movements and isolation movements where you can work on your flaws. Like, for me, my biggest flaw has always been my arms. They've just lagged way behind my whole physique, and they just never caught up. But only recently they've started to really catch up because I've been just really isolating the bicep. I'm talking like machine preacher curls, cable curls, really trying to isolate that specific muscle and just fucking forcing it to catch up to the rest of my physique. And that's it, guys. I hope you learned a thing or two and about your bad genetics and the solution. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all pretty much the same deal, right? Get in the gym, train for hypertrophy, train for aesthetics, eat clean foods, and focus on small surpluses or deficits. What the fuck? Where the fuck did this come from? Just change. On a real note, if you're this guy and you're stuck on a spinning hamster wheel trying to build this physique and you want help building the AAA physique, building the physique of your dreams, we can provide you the roadmap going forward to get you insane results like these. You can either message us on Instagram if you want to learn more and we can have a chat with you, see how we can build a physique like this for yourself, or you can simply go in the description, you can book a free call. No pressure or anything like that. We'll simply just talk about a roadmap going forward, a game plan to build you this physique. And if it sounds good, man, we can work together to build this physique. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Catch us in the next one.